Hello, and welcome to this episode of Penguinshellpersonality. Today, we're going to be looking at the 8 cognitive functions of the Myers-Briggs type indicator. That's actually what this channel is going to be devoted to entirely, just the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and the way that we can use that to discover our personalities, how it can be used in day-to-day life, all those sorts of things. And I thought this was a really good place to start, because many people get confused by the online tests and stuff into thinking that the 4 letters of the personality type are the most important part. In fact, this is very much incorrect. It's important to know whether you're introverted or extroverted. It's important to know about the intuitive or sensing. It's important to know about the thinking or feeling, the judging and perceiving. But more important is what those things point to. And actually, that is how you figure out what type you have. You go right down to the basics. So let's just get started with one of the 8 cognitive functions, which I think personally are the basics of the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Extroverted feeling. First, we see here that people who have this are deeply affected by those around them. This means that when they're in a crowd, in a public place, they're looking around, looking at how people are feeling. They can almost get a sense of the aura of the place they're in. It's very important to them to be in a healthy environment. If the environment's healthy, they'll feel better. If the environment is unhealthy, not so much. They might not feel as good. They'll be very affected by that environment. This is also what I mean when I say that they go with the crowd in many ways. They are heavily affected, so if the crowd is feeling a certain thing, they might feel that too. They work to fit what they see as their societal role. Now, this societal role can be a ton of different things, and it can change daily or in the middle of a day just based on the scenarios they're in and the environment they're in. They might see sometimes that they need to be someone who tells someone else what to do because they don't agree with what they're doing, while at other times they might see themselves as someone who just needs to listen because everyone is telling that person what to do. They try to create outer harmony. This whole working to fit into their societal roles is a part of this. They're trying to find a way that they can help balance the outside world, and this also helps balance themselves. One of the almost negatives of this, though, is that they expect reciprocation generally. So if they're extremely kind to someone, they expect that in return, and it's not necessarily in a selfish way. It's just they naturally feel that that should happen back to them because that's what they would do. They're also heavily supportive and nurturing generally. Of course, those are both very positive things, and none of these functions are always positive. But if we're looking at it from a positive perspective, they are very supportive and nurturing. Now on to the next one. Introverted feeling. This is very different from extroverted feeling, despite the fact that they're both feeling. It makes decisions based on an internal set of values. Now, this is very, very different from extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling changes based on the environment they're in. Introverted feeling does not. And even though introverted feeling is just as strong as extroverted feeling, you might not see it as much simply because it's introverted, it's internalized. People with this find emotions are more important than data. This is very different than thinking types, of course, but almost to be expected from a feeler. They are extremely sensitive. Of course, extroverted feelers are too, but this is almost a bit different. Introverted feelers are more capable of bottling up these emotions. They aren't as good, or it's not as natural for them to expel these emotions, these negative emotions especially. They feel deeply connected with others. Just because they don't change themselves, usually to fit societal roles, doesn't mean that they don't feel a connection with others. They are very good at reading people, very good at understanding how they feel and acting on that. This can actually, though, lead to them acting impulsively. These impulsive actions can be good things, they can be bad things, they can be all sorts of things. It can be as simple as they see someone crying in the hall and their impulse is to go talk to them and help them. But this can also lead them into bad scenarios because they will sometimes be willing to sacrifice too much of themselves to help others, and they will help those who can't help themselves. For example, children. These people are often very drawn to children. On to the next one. Extroverted thinking. These people are great at scheduling and quantifying, at using charts, pros/cons lists, tables, graphs, and visual ways of comparison, connection, and contrast. These are the sorts of people that you want planning stuff for you. It's very good to have them there planning things. They are amazing at creating situations where the most productivity will happen. They are absolutely fantastic to have as part of a team. And to them, order is incredibly important. Chaos, they don't like that at all. Usually they follow others' logic easily. Doesn't mean that they'll agree with it, but they can usually latch onto that logic and get down to the deep points within. They're very good at also noticing factual discrepencies, which can help them out a lot because it's hard to fool one of these people in many ways. On to the next one. Introverted thinking. These people are analytical, objective, and logical. They test new information against existing facts. So, to them, an existing fact might be something as simple, let's say, as if I drop this apple, it's going to hit the ground. So then they might take a pen and drop it, and if that hits the ground too, then they might determine that there's a reason for this. Of course, this is a very simplistic way of looking at it, but introverted thinking has been responsible for a lot of scientific revelations and understandings of things, and this is why they love testing things. And they love using exact words to express ideas. They don't like being imprecise. Being imprecise to them is very bad. And they need to know why things work the way they do. It's not enough for them to give them a general idea or say, if you do this, this will happen. They need to know why it will happen, preferably when it will happen, but mainly, why do things work the way they do? As I said before, this leads to a very inventive personality type. Once they understand how a system works, they can integrate it into other systems. They're very good at this. Extroverted sensing is our next one. This function is responsible for experiencing the present moment. People with this are typically athletic, which goes along with the present moment. They're very good at making quick, on-the-fly decisions. As we can see lower down on the list here, it says they're improvisers, good at improvising. This goes along with the whole, with sports. Sports, you're required to think on your feet. They're thrill seekers usually, constantly searching for new things to try. So if you have a friend that constantly wants to go to new places, constantly wants to do new things, there's a good likelihood that they are an extroverted sensor. Whereas if you don't want to do those things, you might not be, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just very different. They know how far they can push a situation. That's what I mean by push it in quotes there. They will figure out the limitations and what they're allowed to do in a scenario. And this may lead them to act recklessly. All of these things combined may lead to that, which when you're living in the moment and just doing things as they come, improvising, recklessness can be one of the negative byproducts of that. Introverted sensing is our next one. This function is responsible for storing data and information, then comparing and contrasting the present situation with similar ones from the past. So this can go from social situations to situations where they notice, I ate this food and I got sick. And they'll contrast that with a past situation and go, oh, I ate this then and I got sick. And this can lead to very logical, great connections, but also to very illogical connections. This function is responsible for finding similarities in people. This means this is what is at work when you see someone and you go, this person reminds me a lot of this other person. Your introverted sensing is usually working somewhere in there. May experience physical sensations of past situations when in similar ones. This is all part of that comparing and contrasting, but a more extreme variation of it. It can be very extreme what they'll feel in a present situation just because it's similar to a past one. Great attention to small physical details, clear views of goals and objectives, cares about tradition and consistency. All three of those things are also very important. I'm just going to look quickly, though, at the cares about tradition and consistency. This is very different from extroverted sensing. Very, very, very incredibly different. In fact, all of these things are. Clear view of goals and objectives. Extroverted sensing usually doesn't care that much about that. It's improvising. It's in the moment. The great attention to small physical details is usually not there with extroverted sensing too. Introverted sensing is where you find all of that. And introverted sensors generally don't like change. Now, on to our second last one, extroverted intuition. This gets many ideas from one point and takes these ideas in a multitude of directions. Then weaves these ideas and beliefs together to find points of connections, which makes them great at brainstorming. These are the people you want with you if you are in a group and you're just brainstorming. If you are picking this person's brain, you are going to get countless ideas, just a multitude getting thrown at you. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for people that aren't like this. Leadership may emerge in certain situations. And this is because they're concerned with the big picture and mainly because they're very creative. So if they're in a situation where there is no easy way out or no easy solution, they will get creative. They will find a solution. And even if they're an introvert in those situations, they may become very much leaders. Because you can have this extrovert function without being an extrovert according to the Myers-Briggs type indicator, but we'll get more into that another time. Now on to our last one, introverted intuition. This relies on gut instincts to form plans. Takes in information, finds patterns, creates an internal structure, and uses it for future situations. This is all about planning. There's a ton of planning involved. A ton of big picture ideas being put together, and they will strive towards a goal. They aren't as interested, though, with concrete facts as much as ideas, abstract concepts, and theories. And as I said before, planning. So they're great at knowing how to get to a certain end. They will find a way to get there. This also leads to them being incredibly good at getting a feel for a situation. They will be able to remember other situations from the past and react quickly. Somewhat quickly. They require lots of planning, though, but if the plan's already in place, they can react quickly and keep that plan going. Just keep it chugging along, and that leads to this getting a feel for a situation. All right, so that is the end of this episode, actually. Please remember to like this video and subscribe. That goes a really long way in helping out this channel. It lets me know that you're interested in more content of this sort. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll be putting up another video again soon, so just come check out the channel, and for when that's up, it should be up in a few days. Thanks. Bye-bye.